Welcome back to another episode of Rocket Vlogs. By now you should know that my minimum diameter rocket is lost somewhere in a field near Argonia, Kansas, and it only feels appropriate that we go back to big giant rockets instead. We tried, right? Maybe we'll try again later. But you should also know by now that I sold my 7.5 inch Iris that I flew at LDRS on an Aerotech N2220 dark matter motor, and a couple of people were a little bit upset about that, but as I said in another video, you don't have to worry about that because I have another 7.5 inch Iris. This is a pre-production 7.5 inch Iris LOC Precision kit that Dave and Jay sent me quite a while ago. I decided to sell the fiberglass Iris and fiberglass this instead. So today I'm going to teach you guys how to fiberglass a big diameter tube like this one. And when I say teach, take that with a grain of salt because I've never done one this big before. So there's 4 tubes that make up this kit, and I have enough ABS pipe laid out on my little fiberglassing jig over here that I could do 2 at once. The first step that you do when you're fiberglassing paper tubes like this is you pull that glassine layer off. I've already started, as you can see. I just wanted to see how it was going to go. It's real easy on a big tube like this. Some people sand it off. I'll sand it for painting or adhesion purposes, but for fiberglassing you really want it down into this material right here because the epoxy is going to absorb in that really good, and yeah, you're going to have a nice strong bond with the fiberglass cloth and make it pretty beefy, but still relatively light, extremely light compared to my G12 Iris that weighed I think 55 pounds with no motor in it. This should be a lot lighter. We should be able to fly this on like big K motors in theory. So let's get to it, shall we? All right, we're switching to the phone camera for a sec because I forgot to swap the battery on the main camera, and that's inside charging right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is finish peeling all the glassine or glossine. I don't know which is right. I see it typed both ways all the time. I think glassine is correct. At any rate, we're taking the shiny stuff off, and then here's my little fiberglassing setup. It's just a couple sawhorses and a piece of black ABS pipe running through the middle. I guess see it and just kind of have it out there, because what's exciting about this version of a 7.5 inch Iris is relative to my fiberglass one is it fits in my Fiesta ST. So this can go to launches as 12-foot rocket that's 7.5 inches in diameter and could probably handle a mild N. Can travel in my car that gets 30 miles per gallon. So I can't imagine a better scenario than that. I also got another rocket with a 98mm mount that can fit in my Fiesta and sitting right back there in a box next to my Red Max. So while I'm peeling, let's talk about my new Patreon that should be live by the time you see this video. I'm going to set it as a base $5 a month, and if you want to do more than that, you can. I believe you can also do less than that, $5 a month, and you get access to additional videos. I'll be posting extra ones, kind of like how before Airfest I was posting a couple a week. I try to shoot for one every Sunday. I've got a lot of kits that we're planning on building over this winter, and some behind the scenes stuff like that. You know, like when I get a new rocket or whatever, I'll show it on the Patreon before I show it on the channel or we start building it or whatever. And we've got some big exciting stuff coming. Like I said last time we were talking about an Iris. That's not gonna be the biggest rocket on my channel anymore, and this isn't either. This is actually going to look quite small compared to what is coming. So if you want additional details and bonus information and just want to support the channel, every dollar from the channel's YouTube income, I do have ads, I do get paid for this. It's definitely not a lot, but it does help offset the cost of everything. Every dollar from YouTube ad revenue and the new Patreon is going straight into the channel, pumping out content for as long as you guys want to watch it. And yeah, I appreciate you all sticking around. If you don't have money for the Patreon, don't fret. You can still help the channel a bunch by pressing the like button and sharing it with your rocketry friends and all that, because the more views I get, the more subscribers I get, ultimately the more income I get. And like I said, now and forever, any dollar that generates from this YouTube channel is going back into it. Also plan on for Patreon doing a lot more giveaways and stuff like that. So if you support the channel, I want to give back to everybody who has and already does. And like with the LOC Precision 4-inch Patriot that we gave away, I want to start doing more stuff like that. Thanks everybody. Check out the Patreon. The link is in the description. And I'm almost done peeling this too. It would have gone a lot faster if I wasn't trying to talk and, you know, chew gum metaphorically at the same time. But I am blonde, so that's just how it goes. All right, so I bought this giant, well, what I believed was going to be a roll of fiberglass, but it's really just a folded up, I think 10 yards by 40 inches or something like that. I think it's okay. Maybe it's 10 meters. I think it is 10 meters by 1 meter. So, you know, however that works out, 39 inches or something like that. I don't know the conversions off the top of my head. At any rate, it was really cheap. It was on eBay. I believe it's 8.5 ounce, and the weave is really fine and nice for how heavy the cloth is. So hopefully this will be nice and easy to work with, a lot like carbon fiber. Obviously, I'm going to punch in the diameter of this and figure out the circumference, and then we'll get a piece cut to go around this. And like I said, I don't know how much fiberglass or how much epoxy I'm going to need, just because I don't know how much this is going to absorb. I've never done anything this big before. That's why we're doing one tube first as a test bed, get an idea of what's going on. And then if this goes okay, I'll think about doing two at once. So we're doing one layer of this. That's all we need. LOC Precision sent stiffy couplers, which is awesome. It should be able to handle some pretty gnarly motors. So, and I don't plan on pushing it too hard. Sorry for the bad lighting, but it's nice outside and I want the nice weather. It's not blazing hot anymore. I just spent the past 2 weeks in Argonia, then Orlando. So I'm loving the fall vibes right now. You do want a little bit of overlap. That's maybe a bit much. Well, no, I guess I don't really know on this size of a rocket. We got like a good 2 inches of overlap there. But I'm just going to leave it. What I am going to do though is before we start fiberglassing, I'm going to use this piece to cut 3 more pieces so that the overlap is consistent across all the tubes. I forgot that, you know, measuring stuff exists. I'm not going to cut the extra pieces right now. It's 28 inches for future reference me. I'm going to write that down somewhere. Now, one thing I'm not going to do that I highly advise you do, a centering ring of sorts out of foam that has a hole in the middle of the size of whatever you're using as your, not mandrel, but just whatever's holding it up while you're fiberglassing. That way the tube sits centered and it's a lot easier to work with. But like I said, I ran out of time for this project 2 weeks ago and it's still not done. So we're just working with what we got right now. As usual, I'll be using West Systems epoxy. I'm going to start with 3 pumps and we'll see if that's enough. I highly recommend when mixing big batches of West Systems like this, mix it in a small container so you can get it well mixed and then pour it out on like a paper plate or just something similar, because if you keep it contained, especially if it's hot, it'll cure really fast. That happened with my fiberglass iris when I was doing the carbon fiber on the coupler. I went to dip the brush in it and it was hard in like 25 minutes. So a mistake I see with a lot of people fiberglassing is they get just enough epoxy on something to tack it and then put the cloth on and then apply more epoxy on top of it. The idea is to put enough epoxy on what you're fiberglassing to you just use the brush or whatever your application tool is to pull the epoxy through the cloth. Yeah, we're gonna need a lot of epoxy here. This is why I really like West Systems, is it's really long working time. Like I said, I've never done anything this big before, so I didn't quite understand what I was signing myself up for here. Hopefully this chip brush isn't leaving a bunch of bristles. They always do, so it is definitely going to, but because of the color of the tube, I can't see them. Just trying to lay it down smooth, get it sticking. There's still a good amount of epoxy in the brush. Oh boy. I'm doing right now is just making sure the edge is completely sealed in with epoxy. And you can see all these white spots. Those are going to be dry spots. We don't want any of that. We want it completely transparent. Well, that was, quite frankly, exhausting. It definitely took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. But, yeah, like I said, I've never done a full-blown tube this big before. Obviously, I did that coupler with carbon fiber. It's the same diameter. But this cardboard really does soak up that epoxy. So there's almost 8 pumps of West Systems epoxy used in this layup. And it's a little puddled up right here just because I was trying to seal this edge. It's actually already, oh wow, sitting in the sun helped it go pretty quick. So I trimmed up the edges after it started curing a little bit, and once it's cured a little bit more, I'll be able to take an X-Acto knife and get those edges down nicely. Yeah, all I can say is if you're going to do a big tube, you know, take your time, make sure you're wetting everything out. The weight of the cloth is your friend, so keep turning the tube and laying it over further, and use the brush to pull the epoxy the direction the cloth is going, and that helped me out a lot. So yeah, it's not too bad that we got these strands in here that I'm gonna have to try and I was trying to cut them out and I was trying to pull them out, but what you run into is it wants to pull the cloth edges up. There's a little bit of frayed ends sticking up out of there, but overall this is not bad for my first time doing a big old tube. I'm not sure if I want to try and tackle doing 2 at once, but I do need to get them done ASAP. So I guess I'll see. We'll see how that goes. Right now I gotta go home and get some work done, but I'm gonna come back tonight and try and do the other 2. Here's a place you don't see very often in these videos, my house. So here's the fin can for the LOC Iris. You can see the MMAS adapter system in there, kinda. I'll show you guys that another date. But I won't be fiberglassing this tube because you can see the centering rings come all the way up to here. And there's 3 of them, so it's pretty stout in there. And I did chopped carbon fiber internal fillets, and this tube slides over the top. And then the coupler sits on top of the centering ring, and it has a LOC stiffy coupler. So we'd just be adding unnecessary weight. And the glassine layer staying on this tube should keep the tube diameters pretty similar with all the fiberglass ones. And if not, we can work a little blending magic. But we're saving a little fiberglass and a lot of epoxy by not doing this tube because it doesn't really need it. Also, 1/2-inch plywood fins, not fiberglassing those either. We're just going to put some good fillets on there, and she should be good to take just about anything we want to throw at it. Alright, I'm back. We're going to do 2 at once. My dad's going to help me out, so I'm going to cut the cloth and we're rolling. Look, Dad's helping. I can't even see very well, but so we're gonna do 2. Instead of doing 3 pumps on the tube before the cloth goes on, we're gonna do 5, and then hopefully we won't need to add a bunch of epoxy. We can just pull it all out with the brushes. I'll show you what I was doing that I figured out towards the end of the last one. That'll hopefully make the process a little bit easier and faster. Yeah, I spent a lot of time on the last one. So I cut that one a little long. Your overlap is massive. That's my bad. No wonder it's taking 3 years to wet it out.
I think it's coming down pretty good though.
Yeah, it looks good.
All these little straws. Are those gonna sand out or?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, have it. Damn it, now I want to do mine better because you made that one look good. I was just
but it's not done yet. It might get ugly. The edges are deep.
Yeah, it's just because you got here, if there's epoxy, just get the brush super wet and just dab it on the edges because you keep pulling out like that, it's just going to keep moving them around.
Yeah.
It's a pain.
Of the phase detractors.
Shane's learning the turbo encapsulator portion of the level 2 test.
By selecting model year, transmission systems, and turbo encapsulator run test.
Show us your red mag. Wait, are you using that for level 2 or are you going to use your 4-inch?
I'm going to use the red max.
Nice. Woo. The AMW one. I have one too, but it's in a box over there. Those fillets look pretty good. I mean, they're no Rocket Vlogs Braden Carlson level, but...
Oh, yeah. They're also not done.
Oh, is that what it is?
This is only 3 coats of primer. I don't know how many times sanding.
Damn, you really are doing it just like me.
Yeah.
This thing's gonna weigh 85 pounds.
Yeah.
Dude, right here, though. Boom.
It's tight, but it's doable.
Are you doing head-end deployment? So, you could do a K1275.
I could.
Down the...
But the bulk plate would have to be recessed to like here.
Oh, so you don't have any room for electronics.
At all.
Oh, you could just fly like I fly the Big Daddy. Dude, did you see the video of that thing taking off? It was pretty nuts.
Yeah.
I'll show you in a sec. They don't know what's in here yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Get that.
It's kind of lame. You know, it's not that great.
But, yeah, you gotta do your level 2. There's dogs barking in the background. That's always fun. I gotta fly. I'm ordering a motor for this on Black Saturday. No adapter required, you know what I'm saying? The full 98mm shebang. What are you ordering on Black Saturday?
Probably too much.
Alright, our friends over at LOC Precision sent me this nose cone, which I guess is what they'll be shipping with these kits when they're done. This is a Public Missiles nose cone. If you're not aware, LOC Precision just bought Public Missiles. So, yeah. Nice composite nose cone. It's super, super light. And it looks a little bit better than the plastic one. But now I have a plastic nose cone, so I think I need to build a 7.5-inch Big Daddy.
Oh, yeah.
It only makes sense.
True.
Unless you've been watching the channel a long time, you're probably not familiar with this location. I accidentally drilled a hole in this table at LDRS, now it's a perfect screwdriver holder. Welcome to my house. A lot of people have just assumed I live with my parents, but it's my parents' garage where all the rocket stuff is. My house doesn't have a garage, so I go over there to work on stuff. Because of the way I slotted the tubes, I kind of have to use a lot of clamps to get everything to sit properly, but there you are. I'm just going to whip up a batch of rocket epoxy and finally glue this motor tube assembly into the lower airframe tube. Like I said, I'm not reinforcing this because there's a centering ring all the way up to here. It's pretty sturdy, and then there's a reinforced coupler that sits all the way on top of the centering ring, and these are 1/2-inch 7-ply, so they're not going anywhere. You'll get a chance to see the internal fillets I did a long time ago. If you're a real OG watcher of this channel, you'll probably already know what they look like, but when I started this build, I had like 12 subscribers. So let's take a look at the LOC Precision motor mount adapter system. Would you look at that? I knew I was forgetting something. There is a 3rd ring in there. For some reason, I thought these fin tabs went like all the way to the end, but here is my fillets I did a long time ago. These are West Systems with more chopped carbon fiber in them than one could probably ever deem necessary. Turn this so you can see it better. The epoxy is black and mixed together like usual, and then there's just a bunch of big chopped carbon pieces that never got fully blended up because, you know, I was impatient. Much more full of carbon than any other internal fillets I've ever done, because all of them are injected. These were done outside the rocket, so these are definitely not going anywhere. And this will actually make the external fillets fairly easy on me because I don't need to be super beefy. I'll probably still use West Systems. I don't have any issues with rock epoxy. It's just not my jam. I like to lay my fillets and fix them afterwards, and rock epoxy is sandable. It's fine. I actually use it on my orange 3-inch Punisher. But I just like my West Systems with a bunch of filler. It's really easy to sand and get the shape I want. And that's just the way I do it. So it does gas out real quick when you heat it up. It definitely thins out. Okay, let's get that. Maybe that's what it is about it that gets to me, is I'm so used to the consistency of West Systems being like water that I get uneasy and don't know what to do with a thick epoxy. This tube fits on any way you want it, but it fits really good a particular way. And I've marked the tip of this fin to line up with the tip of this slot. This particular one here, get a little more in there. And this guy could use a little more as well. A nice generous bead. Alright, so here's our finished product. These tubes look pretty dang good. We had a couple issues with the edges not sticking down a little bit, but they're not too bad. Won't be anything worth really being super concerned about. Some of these strands are stuck in here, but I'm just going to sand these real quick and hit them with some filler primer and take a look at what that looks like. Alright, I've got what I like to call a spotting coat of primer on there, just to give us an idea of what we're working with. There's a couple spots where I went through the cloth, through the epoxy into the cloth because it was a little dry in those areas, but there's so much epoxy actually soaked into the tube. I don't think we're gonna have any issues with that. So yeah, the seams will need a little attention, and that's fine. That's just kind of how it goes. When I do fiberglass stuff, I usually like to line those seams up with where the rail buttons go. That way, people aren't gonna look at them. But we are gonna do probably sand this with 600 grit, do another coat of the filler primer, sand that, and then do a bunch of coats of regular primer. I like the filler primer a lot, but there's a couple issues with it for doing something this big. It's pretty expensive. I'm surprised I managed to cover those tubes with one can. And it doesn't use the high output nozzle like the 2x coverage Rust-Oleum cans, which is kind of what I'm used to. So it takes a really, really long time to do. So yeah, we're gonna do another coat of filler after we sand that primer, do that, and then probably 5 or 6 coats of the 2x regular primer and wet sand that, get it as smooth as we can. After all that primer and sanding and paint, the cloth shouldn't be very evident, and it is what it is. If you can still see it a little bit, I don't really care that much. So thank you guys very much for watching. That's going to end this episode of Rocket Vlogs. Don't forget to check out the Patreon. I'm going to try and get patreon.com/rocketvlogs, but I haven't set it up yet. But the link will be in the description in the pinned comment if you want to see behind the scenes stuff, more uploads than once a week. Check it out. I appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe, hit the like button, and share the content. And, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.